All right, I am familiar with this question, being that I am now representing this family. Before answering the question, I'm trying to catch up on some of the pending posts, and so I appreciate everybody's patience. But it's the beginning of the school year, so I can only get to this stuff when I have some extra time. So, being that it's Friday evening, I'm got a little time, and I'm going to answer this. But you know, I am representing this child, but you're not going to know that, because I'm not going to provide any names or information or about the school. But I think it's pertinent. The other thing is that I've this is one I'm handling personally, and not one of my other attorneys, because this is close to my heart. I've got a child, a daughter, with autism, classic autism, very, very similar. And we've had very similar situations over the course of her school career. And so, I'm taking this one to heart, um, for that. Not that every one of my cases I don't approach it from the same viewpoint. I do, but there are certain situations that because of the similarity, um, that it strikes me a little differently. All right. Daughter is 11, sixth grade. Last year, a teacher left and the principal changed everyone your daughter's been working with since kindergarten. Your daughter now refuses to go to school. She will fight to not get out of the car. She's not received any of her therapy or school services since January of 22. Can I take her out of school and just do her therapies? I know zero about my child's rights. I've never had an issue until the new principal. She goes to the school. Another mother that has worked with you told me to reach out and see what I could do and what my rights are when it comes to her not going to school. What can I do if I can't get her into the school or even do school? She has autism. She speaks, but not in a way to have a conversation. She can't say how her day went or if anything happened, which is very similar to my own child. So that's where I'm telling you that behavior is a form of communication. And so if she's refusing to get out of the car, then that is indicative of communication. She's telling you something's not right in her school program, or at that school location. Now, if the teacher left, didn't come back, they combined classrooms, where you and I have already had this discussion. You have no idea how many kids, after the Christmas break, when they combined the classroom, were crammed into these two classes. That means we also don't know what the aid support ratio with the students would be. We don't know the teaching style of the new teacher that took over the class back in January, or combined that other class with her own. We don't know those things because it's not like they permit parents to sit there and walk around the school and figure those things out. So for your daughter, who has had basically the same staff since kindergarten, along with the same aide since kindergarten, uh, gone. Which of course, with the combined class and with the major disruption to a predictable schedule, with routine, things of that nature, you would expect there to be issues. And for my own child, that is a huge issue, because there needs to be that consistency, that predictability, that full understanding of what her day is like. Because even now, at 19 years old, guys, she still, starting on the weekends, will start discussing going to school on Monday, and what she's going to be doing and what she's going to be doing right after school. And that school ends at 3 o'clock for her. She will do that, and a lot of it is soothing and preparing, because she has major anxiety issues as well. So she just has to be reassured that yes, that is your schedule. That is what's going to happen. And she does great as long as everybody stays with her schedule. If not, we have issues. And the thing is, it's not. My daughter hasn't changed. My daughter has autism, and it's the adults that have always been the problem. It's not my daughter, okay? She has a disability. That's just where our sympathy and our empathy and our humanity has to come into play to understand that to make demands of her outside of the realm of her ability to do so, that's an adult problem. It's not her problem, okay? And people go, you mean we have to sit there and bend to her? Yeah, yeah, yeah. If we want peace and we want happiness and harmony and we want her to make progress, that's exactly what we do. Okay? That doesn't mean that she can't be challenged, because within this span of time, she works incredibly hard. And she makes progress. There's no doubt that my daughter makes educational performance progress in all areas: academics, social emotional development, including her behavior and communication. She does. But she has a very, very structured schedule, working on very structured things with the involvement of a board-certified behavior analyst or a licensed behavior analyst. And she gets her services and then she goes home. But it's one of those things to where we have a very regimented plan. But it's a plan that works. And it's a plan that works for her to where she doesn't engage in behaviors and frustration because of her limited ability to communicate. Because that's all her behavior is. It's just a way for her to communicate her displeasure for whatever's going on. So in this situation, major disruptions. Did they do anything about it? No, they didn't do anything about it. Other than, hey, drive up here, which the parent always did. She didn't have a problem getting dressed, had no problem getting in the car, she had no problem driving up to the school. But once she was at the school, they couldn't get her out of the car. Now, did they call an IEP meeting? Did they sit there and say, we need to put a plan together? We need to sit there and involve a behavior expert and sit there and address these. Let's have an IEP meeting next week. No. They didn't do anything other than try to coax her out of the car, which sometimes would be successful and most of the time not. But most of the time, they would just sit there and adjust the time, the car line, so that, she wasn't causing a backup, But at the same time, the parent works. So now we're screwing with the parent's schedule. Now loss of income for the parent. It's now disrupting the work responsibilities for their family business. Having to show up later so they can try to coax her out of the car without, blocking up the car line. And, between 20 and 40 minutes of sitting there and the child refusing to get out of the car, then they would just say, well, let's try tomorrow. And that became the routine from January until around the beginning of May. What happened at the beginning of May? The Brainiacs decided to have an IEP meeting. Now, why they didn't have one before is beyond me. I'm going to find out. I just filed this thing. I'm going to find out. I'm fascinated. Involved a behavior analyst at that time with 3 weeks of school left. When I can tell you, I don't involve a behavior analyst after about, sometime in April. It's just a waste of resources because of the nature of what goes on in a school setting. It's like you might as well just check the box and consider this school year a loss. That's how I look at it, because there's just not a lot that can be done in a meaningful, tangible way. So we try to find alternatives to sit there and get through the end of the school year. But they had one beginning of May, we'll sit there and try to figure it out. Oh, we have a plan. Nothing changed. And then, of course, they worked over the summer with the behavior analysts. There was some change there, some progress there, but it was a false environment. False environment, guys. There's no other kids around. There's no teachers. There's no aides. They're working, and now we can get the child into a school, a different school, not the one where the problems are happening. And then school starts. And, you have a couple days of success and you go, okay, all right, maybe this is going to work. And then boom, back to the same old, back in January. Now, do I fault the parent for not wanting to go through another year of that? Of course I don't. January to May, nobody did anything. I'm talking about like big substantive stuff like, yeah, hey, we're going to fix this. We're going to try to figure it out. Let me go ahead and say this. Guys, a child engaging in behavior prior to coming to school is I look at that the same way I do a child that requires a behavior plan on a school bus, because that's also before school starts, isn't it? But somehow, if it's a child on a school bus because it's a government school bus, then we need to address that behavior on the school bus. But somehow, if the child's being transported in the parent car, or the behaviors engaged in at home, to where the parent is fighting with the child even to get them dressed because the child is refusing to go to school, we have to address that in these locations. The school doesn't just sit there and get to wash their hands. They have the legal responsibility to provide a free, appropriate public education. And if they understand that the child's disability and the behavior that the child's engaging in is the impediment and obstacle to their legal responsibility and their legal duty to provide a FAPE, then they have to sit there and figure it out as an IEP team, in the car line and in the home. Because it's not the parent that is the impediment to the legal responsibility of the school to provide a FAPE. The child has a disability, and everybody understands that the child's engaging in behavior that's impeding their learning. So what the hell are you doing about it? And schools will say, well, that's not our responsibility. Really? Because that's what we have homebound for. So you do go into the home. So you can figure it out. And it isn't traditional homebound. You don't just sit there and go, well, the kid's least restrictive environment. That's not necessarily true. But it just means that is, when schools go, well, we don't deal with that at home. Yeah, you do. But it doesn't mean that the child's on homebound. It just means that we need to address whatever these behavioral concerns are between here and here, which means that we identify an out-of-the-box, least restrictive environment, and we identify solutions, and we identify goals and who we need to sit there and move in to help address these situations so that we can move the child out of this environment into the school environment. But that involves a whole litany of observations and trying to ascertain what the antecedents are. Why is it that the child used to like to go to school, now they don't like to go to school? And the behavior is that screaming communication. It's just that she can't verbally say, hey, there's somebody in there, there's a child in there that sensory issues, is vocalizing. There's a child that is self-injurious. It scares me. There's a child and I'm saying that verbally she can't convey that. I'm just saying that what she sees around, any of these things can be a factor, including aides, roughhousing, or pulling her, or grabbing her, abuse. I mean, those things happen, guys. Can't put my head in the sand and say that it doesn't. It does. It could be the manner in which the staff are communicating with the children in the class. That's a polar opposite than how the prior teacher and staff did. But she had an aide, and they even pulled that aide because they were like, well, she's getting too close to this aide. You don't sit there in full disruption of what she knows to be a consistent program for herself. Just ridiculous. But you also don't sit there and let this go so far to where, it's causing damage to the family, and then reinforcing the child to where now she hasn't been in school in a meaningful way for over, what's this now, going on 9 months? What do you think that does? How hard do you think it is to sit there and get a child back in an environment after you've helped contribute and reinforce that? And I'm not talking about the parents. I'm talking about the school system and their legal responsibility to fix these issues, even when they exist before school starts. That's their responsibility. It's not the parent's responsibility. And we're going to fix this problem. And, it's just unnecessary. It's rare on many occasions, But, to sit there and trick a parent or to make a parent feel like somehow they're the problem and somehow their child is the problem. No, I don't accept that. We've had to deal with that multiple times and sit there and work with a behavior analyst and work with our school staff to sit there and try to isolate what the problems are within the class. And then once we address that, my daughter never had a problem going into school independently and by herself. It was only in rare situations to where something was wrong. But we needed as a team to work together, to be honest and transparent, to sit there and do some investigation and some questions, to sit there and narrow that down and involve a behavior expert that could come in and help narrow those so we could alleviate it. And then after that, like I said, my daughter never had a problem. And it's been years, but they have happened.